for the match. That is one of the biggest upsets you will see in the World Cup of darts. The team they labelled as unbeatable, the world number one, Luke Humphries, and the world number two, Luke Littler, are out.
Luke Littler has won almost everything darts has to offer. 2 world championships, a £1 million payday, an MBE handed to him by a future king. There is one thing he has never managed to do, and it is the reason England keep failing at the tournament they are supposed to own. And we will get to exactly what that thing is. England are the record 5-time champions of the World Cup of Darts. They will walk into the 2026 edition as favourites once again, with the 2 best players on the planet wearing their colours, and on paper at least, they look set up to disappoint all over again. Start with the obvious contradiction. A country can be the most successful in the tournament's history and still be a strong candidate to fail, and that is exactly the puzzle facing England right now. The PDC World Cup of Darts launched back in 2010, and across 16 editions through to 2026, England have lifted the trophy 5 times, more than any other nation. Look closer at when those titles actually arrived though, and the whole picture shifts. 4 of those 5 titles landed inside a single 5-year window, in 2012, 2013, 2015 and 2016, and every one of them belonged to the same pairing of Phil Taylor and Adrian Lewis. That stretch was total dominance. Taylor then retired from the PDC at the end of 2017, and what followed tells you everything. Across 7 attempts from 2017 right through to 2025, England reached just 1 final, and they lost that final 3-0. The only title in that entire stretch came in 2024. So the headline number, 5 titles, hides the real story. England no longer carry a winning tradition at the World Cup. What they carry is a Phil Taylor tradition, and Phil Taylor is not walking back through that door. Before we go further, the format matters here because it shapes everything that follows. The modern World Cup from 2023 onward is a pairs event from the first round to the last, which means every single round is one doubles match. 40 nations enter the draw. The top 4 nations, ranked by the combined PDC order of merit position of their 2 players, get seeded straight into the round of 16, while everyone else has to fight through 12 groups of 3, with only the group winner surviving. Group matches and second round matches are best of 7 legs, and from the quarter-finals onward it stretches to best of 15. The venue is the detail that really counts, because the tournament has been staged at the Eissporthalle in Frankfurt, Germany every year since 2022, and 2026 will mark the 5th consecutive year in that building, a pairs event played in Germany. Hold both of those facts in your head, because together they explain why England keep coming undone. Now to the pairing problem itself. England's modern strategy could not be simpler, since they take the 2 highest ranked Englishmen available and put them together, and that sounds completely unbeatable. In 2024, it genuinely was. Luke Humphries, then world number 1, partnered Michael Smith, who was the reigning world champion ranked at number 3, and the pair tore through the entire field without letting anybody get within 4 legs of them before beating Austria 10-6 in the final. That delivered England's record-breaking 5th title, their first since 2016. Humphries called it a cheat code, and his exact words were, "You've got a cheat code, the world number 1 and number 3 against the field, it's quite tough for everyone else." So the strategy can work. Hold on to that, because it complicates the story that comes next. Then came 2025. England travelled to Frankfurt with what looked, on every reasonable measure, like the strongest pair imaginable in Luke Humphries, the world number 1, and Luke Littler, the reigning world champion. The bookmakers made them 4-11 favourites, which is about as short a price as you will ever see in this sport, and that price seeded them straight into the round of 16. They lost their first and only match. Germany beat them 8-4, and the men who did it, Martin Schindler and Riccardo Pietreczko, were ranked at that point as world number 18 and world number 28. 2 players outside the top 15 knocked out the 2 best players on earth. The match sat level at 2-2 before Germany ripped off a 5-leg burst to lead 7-2, with Pietreczko nailing finishes of 106 and 101 under serious pressure. The averages confirmed the CM collapse, because Humphries managed 94.82, Littler slipped to just 91.64, well below his usual 100+ standard, and Schindler topped the lot at 96.18. What actually went wrong here is where the story turns genuinely contested, and 2 competing explanations sit side by side. The first is the one the pundits reach for, and it centers on chemistry and pressure. Wayne Mardle put it plainly when he said, "Playing for your country is different than playing for yourself. Playing with a teammate is different than playing just by yourself. The rhythm that you get in is different, and when you're under pressure, you're under pressure." Australia's Damon Heta was blunter still, suggesting the two Lukes probably relied on each other, thinking, "Oh, he'll do the business." A technical detail backs that reading up. Humphries himself explained before the tournament even started that he and Littler favour different doubles, since Humphries likes double 16 and double 8, while Littler, exactly like Michael Smith before him, prefers tops, which is double 20. That gap sounds tiny. Inside a pairs match where you are setting each other up leg after leg after leg, it is anything but tiny, because it means two players who are individually the best in the world do not naturally leave each other in a comfortable spot. Here is the counter-argument, and it comes from Humphries directly. Once the defeat was done, he pushed back hard against the idea that the two of them were not a unit, insisting in his own words, "There was a lot of talk about me and Luke not being a team. I can assure you we were a team. We didn't arrive at the same time because I said not to. I told Luke, do your own thing." He pointed out that he never practiced jointly with Michael Smith back in 2024 either, and that arrangement won a trophy, and his verdict on the loss was almost dismissive because he said, "We didn't play horrifically, it just wasn't our best." Which version is true? A flawed strategy or simply a bad night? The honest answer from the evidence is that it is not fully settled, and yet the pattern is hard to ignore. Under the modern format, the two occasions England have been most badly embarrassed as a seeded team both involved fielding elite, evenly matched individuals rather than a clear senior and supporting partnership. Look at 2020, when two former world finalists in Smith and Cross were whitewashed 3-0 by Wales, and then 2025 against Germany. Taylor and Lewis were never equals because Taylor was the boss and Lewis adapted around him. Humphries and Littler are rivals at the absolute summit of the sport who actively beat each other on tour, and that is a very different kind of pairing and quite possibly a much harder one to make click. That brings us to the second problem, and it is the thing we left hanging at the start, the one trophy Luke Littler has never been able to lift. The problem is Germany. According to ESPN, as of May 2026, Littler has never won a major senior tournament in Germany, not even a Pro Tour, a Euro Tour, or even a Premier League night. Sit with that for a second. The reigning two-time world champion, the world number one, the most dominant player the sport has, and the only two tournaments missing from his entire CV are the World Cup held in Frankfurt and the European Championship held in Dortmund. Both of them sit on German soil. The one country that keeps beating him is not really a country at all. It is a feeling, and it follows him onto every stage he walks in Germany. The friction is real, and it is well documented. At the German Darts Grand Prix in Munich in 2025, Littler was booed, and afterward he posted a message to Instagram, later deleted, that read, "Shouldn't have been in Munich, but had to play anyway. Next one in Germany for me is Dortmund, and I am glad to say that." He followed that by withdrawing from the European Darts Grand Prix in May 2025 as a protest. He has been strikingly candid about how all of it gets to him, explaining that, "As soon as I got on stage, I started getting booed. I got booed in Hildesheim last year against Peter Wright on the European Tour. I was flying and then they started booing me and I lost. I was flying and then they started booing me and I lost." That is the player himself describing the exact mechanism in his own words. At the 2025 World Cup, ESPN reported that the English pair were booed throughout by the partisan home crowd, and Germany's Chaupi es Pein own Martin Schindler acknowledged it afterward, saying his side did not approve of the whistling, while also admitting it was one of the best atmospheres we've had in a World Cup. Pietreczko summed up the German view with a grin, calling it a very funny game against both Lukes because Luke Littler says never come back to Germany. That is the case for the prosecution, a pairing that may not naturally gel, walking into the most hostile building on the circuit, where their star man has never won a single thing. A good documentary has to be honest about the other side though, and the case for the defense has actually strengthened across 2026. Start with the idea that Littler may simply be growing out of it. In March 2026, at the Premier League night staged in Berlin, in front of a hostile German crowd, Littler beat Stephen Bunting 6-3 and averaged 104.73. That is elite, untroubled darts produced in precisely the environment that is supposed to break him. Phil Taylor always reckoned Littler was tough enough to ride it out, and that night in Berlin is hard evidence that Taylor might be right. Then look at the sheer form these two are carrying into June of 2026. Littler retained his World Championship title on the 3rd of January 2026, dismantling Gian van Veen 7-1 in the final and collecting the inaugural £1 million first prize, which made him the first back-to-back world champion since Gary Anderson. He stands as world number 1, having overtaken Humphries at the Grand Slam in November 2025 to become the youngest player ever to top the rankings. Off the stage, he received an MBE from Prince William at Windsor Castle, and he signed a 10-year deal with Target Darts that the Press Association reported to be worth around £20 million, which makes it the most lucrative agreement in the sport's history. Humphries has hardly been standing still either. Wayne Mardle, speaking in early 2026, called him the man to beat and described him as playing the best darts on the planet right now. Humphries collected multiple titles through the spring of 2026 and beat Littler 6-1 in the Premier League semi-finals in Sheffield. Individually, both Lukes look like sharper, better players in 2026 than they were on the night they lost in 2025. That leaves a genuine contradiction, and it is the beating heart of this whole story. England are sending the two best players in the world, both of them in career best form, to a tournament their country has won more often than anyone else, and on paper they should win it, and they will almost certainly be installed as favourites. That is exactly why the warning signs deserve attention. England were favourites last year too, priced at 4-11, and that price did not save them from anything. The 2026 World Cup runs from the 11th to the 14th of June at the Eissporthalle in Frankfurt, the same building for the 5th year running. England's pair was confirmed in May 2026 as Humphries and Littler, reunited, seeded as the number 1 team. The exact same pairing that lost in 2025, the exact same venue, and the exact same hostile crowd waiting for the exact same player who, by his own admission, has never won a thing in that country. England's history at this event is not really a story of dominance at all. It is a story of one untouchable era that ended in 2017, followed by a modern era that has produced a single title in 9 years, alongside a stubborn habit of arriving as favourites and leaving early. Talent has never been the missing piece, because Humphries and Littler are a cheat code, exactly as Humphries described them. Darts pairs, though, are not one on paper, since they are one on chemistry, on shared comfort under pressure, and on the ability to silence a building that desperately wants you to lose. England have the players. What they have not yet shown at this specific tournament in this specific city is that two superstars can beat one team. Until they prove that on the Frankfurt stage, the smart money says England will do exactly what England keep doing at the World Cup of Darts, which is walk in as favourites and walk out early, again.